Hey, welcome to my Warframes Where They Are Now series, a little series I've had brewing in the back of my mind since the early days of Warframe, quote unquote. I'm going to put this little intro at the beginning of every video in this series. If you've heard this once or more, feel free to skip it. This is just my opinion and is not guaranteed to be fact. Remember, with Warframe, everyone plays at least a little different from each other. That's why there's 52 frames as of making this intro, of course. That being said, I do plan on being as objective as I can with this series. But bias will always be a potential problem and will definitely shine through in certain episodes, if not all. Now, that being said, I hope you enjoy the series. January 15th, 2024. Hard to believe we're in the new year of this now. Well, Happy New Year to everybody. I know I'm a little late, but oh well. Today's topic is Octavia. Part of why this one's coming out so late is because I had to refamiliarize myself with her. I did like her a lot when I first got her. Ended up burning myself out on her, in fact. But yeah, let's get right on into it. Base stats on a level 30 Octavia Prime are 160 armor, 265 energy, 370 health, 370 shields, and 1.05 sprint speed. Her passive is she regenerates 30 energy over 30 seconds for her and allies within 15 meters, whenever her abilities are activated. I'll be honest, I've never noticed this. Granted, this is a pretty solid passive. The main reason why I've never noticed this is because I like to run, Zeneric and Arc and Energize, so kind of overshadows that. But if you don't have those, it's actually pretty nice to have, and even if you do have them, it's nice to have that little extra, I guess. Her first ability is Mallet. You throw out a ring, and enemies are attracted into it, as well as attracted to shoot the thing in the center of it, and as they do, it increases the damage that it does, which it does constantly. This does help it scale with higher end enemies, which is actually quite nice. And it does do a pretty substantial amount of damage as long as you have a pretty good build for it, which honestly isn't all that hard to do on her. As for her augments, I leveled it up before the video, and I kind of wish I did beforehand because now I'm debating working it into my builds. I don't really need it, but the downside is not that much of a downside once you level up the mod, and I did not realize that. I am an idiot, is what I've learned today. Jokes aside, Partition Mallet allows you to throw out 2 of them, but the downside is that it takes off 20% of your range for both of them. Granted, at base value it's 50% range, which is kind of why I was like, I'm not going to bother with it, but it's sitting at 80% what you have for range is a worthy sacrifice if you have a high range build like I do. Her second ability is Resonator. You throw out a ball and it runs over enemies and leads them away. It also picks up mallets that you throw on the ground and carries it with it, so it does kill enemies as it goes. I honestly don't know how to feel about this ability, and I never have. I do use it, but I don't like that it can sometimes take the mallets away from the thing that you're trying to protect if you're doing a defense mission or whatever. But at the same time, it does have some serious, use cases, i.e. if you're just running exterminates or survivals. Actually, it could be kind of hilarious in survivals because you'll just have, large groups of enemies just gathering around the ball. As for its augments, Conductor, you can actually, click on an area and the ball will go to that area at, 150% speed. I definitely wouldn't waste the mod slot on this, mainly because don't get me wrong, this does help with the whole it running away from your defense target thing, but at the same time, it's taking up an entire mod slot's a pretty big ask for what it does. I'd honestly rather just not cast Resonator on defense missions, to tell you the truth. That's not to say it's a bad ability, it's also not to say I don't like the ability. Alright, on to her third ability. This one can be a little complicated if you're not used to it, but honestly, once you use it a few times, it's not that hard to follow. This ability gives buffs to you and your allies within range based on the actions that you all perform. If you crouch to the beat, you get active camo. If you jump to the beat, you get a speed buff. If you shoot to the beat, you get a multi-shot buff. And if you melee to the beat, you get more melee damage. It's nothing crazy in any of its, realms that it uses. However, it is, pretty substantial because of how many of them you're getting. It's 30% for all of them except for the camo, of course, because how do you do 30% camo? but it does, obviously it scales with, ability strength. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. I know there are some abilities that probably should that don't. Anyways, so you can get it up there, and honestly, if you commit really hard to strength, you can get it pretty damn substantial in any particular field that you're trying to get it to be. Uh, Honestly, I keep my strength at around 200, so it's nothing ridiculous, but it is always really helpful to have. Alright, so our fourth ability is Amp, and what this ability does is it doubles the range of your mallets, as well as gives a damage buff to you and your allies. That damage multiplier starts out at 0.25 to 2 times. What is that determined by? Hang on a second. It's determined by sound level in the environment. I'm not sure how you'd keep track of that. I definitely won't ever start bothering to. Granted, if I were to, it would be a pretty substantial difference. But I digress. It's a pretty nice ability to have, and damage buff's definitely no slouch if you have it going good. I will say primarily what I use it for, obviously, is the doubling of the mallet range. And it's kind of a nice hurrah to the rest of our kit. I quite enjoy having it. Granted, on one of my builds, I do have it removed for pillage, because that's like my high-end steel path stuff. But yeah. Alright, as for my build, I have really high duration, which, with how I run her, it's kind of necessary to have that. I have 170 ability range, and of course 200% ability strength, thanks to Archon shards. This runs pretty damn well, and it does rip apart Steel Path. I will say I've been debating, removing Vitality and putting on, Augur Reach. It'd be a bit of a risky play, but given how well it rips apart everything on Steel Path, I feel like it could be fine to do that. But yeah. I have 2 armor shards on her, and the rest of them are ability strength. 2 of the ability strength ones are Outforged. So how does she fare for Deviri? Well, I definitely wouldn't take her as my first pick in most scenarios. Granted, she's not a bad one to have by any means. She actually can go pretty far into Deviri before she starts having too many issues. But if you ever get the boss fight with the Jackal and you have shit for weapons, it could be quite the challenge with Octavia if you're alone. But otherwise, yeah, no, she runs pretty damn good for Deviri. Octavia was a frame that I heard about when she was announced from a friend of mine who was still playing it, because I was on hiatus at the time. And I thought it was really stupid and pretty damn cheesy. Once I actually came back to the game, and I ended up getting her, because she was towards the end of her time out of the vault, so I got her for stupid cheap. I learned very quickly that I was wrong. And honestly, I'm glad that I was wrong, because she is a lot of fun to use. I love the fact that you can make your own songs in the game. I have quite a few of them myself. A lot of them are kind of me charting a lot of other songs. If you guys are curious about that, I'm more than happy to share them, of course. A couple of them are ones I've written myself. But yeah, no, she is fantastic. And it's funny too, because I thought she was kind of showing her age for a while, until I went and decided to relearn her for this video, and discovered that, no, I just didn't know how to build her at the time. She still is really good, and she does fucking shred if you know what you're doing with her. And honestly, that's kind of fun, and I like that that's the case. I like when I'm proven wrong about a frame being bad. Let's go ahead and spin that wheel. Well, either way, thank you all for watching and have a great day.